Weirdly, I had been really drawn to trans stories. And I think that there was a lot of talk around like, will you let your boys wear nail polish? Will you let them grow their hair long? Can they wear dresses? And so as a mom, I was already thinking about that. So when she doesn't think she came out to me, but when she kind of opened the box, I was like, this is a road we're starting down. She said, I'm trans. And I said, I know. I really did. I was like, okay, I'm glad that you caught up.
This is the Transparency Podcast Show with hosts Shelby Chang and Michelle Herman from Long Beach, California, where we bring you life transformation stories, business, investment, personal development, entertainment, and more.
Hello. Welcome back to Transparency Podcast Show. This is Michelle.
And this is Shelby. Good morning.
Good morning. So I heard today's guest is a dual.
Yes, we have a couple. Time. I'm very excited to have people meet Nia and Katie Chiaramonte. I always put the H in there, so I'm trying not to put the H in there. And Nia specifically has been very special to me. We first talked even before I came out, and I was about a year and a half behind her, and she was a great example of, someone that was involved in church and had family, and so I was kind of following in her wake as she transitioned, and I was able to learn and glean a lot from her, so I very appreciate her. So I'm excited to have people meet Nia and her wife, Katie. That has been an amazing example of what a marriage can do and stay together in spite of transition, or even glow or thrive in transition. And so I'm very excited to be able to share their stories with everybody today. So welcome. Nia and Katie.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so excited to be here.
They are coming in from Iowa today, where they have weather probably better than we do today. We're a little bit hotter here.
Yeah.
And so we're very excited to have you guys. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about, I know you guys met a long time ago. You guys were kind of high school sweethearts, and even before that. So tell us a little about your relationship before you were married.
Do you want to start?
Do I want to start? Well, we're actually like elementary school.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know, sweetheart. That's what our parents would say, that we were elementary school sweethearts.
We met in elementary.
That's when we met. And then we became best friends in junior high school. And we had like a thought experiment of if maybe we had a band, what instruments would we play? But
nice.
I did not play any instruments. Nia played the trumpet, and this was not a good band. So our imaginary band just became a really good friendship.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I think it was just like a ploy, to talk to each other. And so our whole relationship kind of developed, on like basketball bleachers and landline telephones,
Landlines, yes.
And so then we started dating our junior year of high school, our junior prom. So we're that adorable.
Oh. Of course you are. Look at you now.
So we started dating in high school, and then went to college, to the same college in Iowa, and then got married our senior year of college. So we've been married for 18 years.
Nice.
18 years and 5 kids later.
5 kids. Tell us about your children.
Yeah, so we are currently in what we call super months, which is where we can remember most of their ages, because it goes 12, 11, 10, 9, and 4. Next month, our oldest will turn 13 and ruin that super month. But they're amazing crew of kids. They just are really fun.
Yeah, they're goofy and silly, and also I think just really caring. We're like gushy parents. We're very proud of our children. They're kind of amazing in every way. Yeah. All of them, all 5 of them.
Awesome. I love that. That's what parents should be. And so you guys are so fun to watch on social media. I've never met Katie or your children in person, but it's fun to kind of know you vicariously through that and watch everybody grow up and getting big already. So very good. So tell us, Nia, a little bit about when you knew you were different, when you knew that the gender that you were assigned to at birth didn't quite fit. So how did that How did that play out for you?
Yeah, I think, looking back, I didn't really feel a whole lot of anything gender-wise until puberty. I grew up kind of not thinking about gender, as a lot of kids do, just kind of before you hit a certain age, the world was kind of genderless. And it was for me until I hit puberty. And there were activities divided by gender and things, but that really didn't bother me until I hit puberty, and my body started to change and hit that, oh, this is not right. This is not what I want. And so I didn't have the language transgender. Grew up in a really evangelical Christian conservative home, and that kind of community, that was seen as a bad thing, number one, but also that language just wasn't even in that sphere. So it wasn't until only 5 years ago that I really, probably 6, that I really started to explore more what was going on inside of me, and started going to therapy. I mean, really is what it took. So through therapy, then realized, well, I am transgender, and that's what this is, and that's what this has been the whole time, even though it's kind of, looked different and had some different iterations. But so that's in a nutshell, kind of started in puberty, and then the last 30 years, it took me to kind of figure out what was going on.
Mm-hmm. And so therapy played a big role in that and helping you discover and kind of flush all that out.
Definitely. I got to a point where I was doing some discovery on my own and just kind of hitting a roadblock. And, Katie graciously kept saying over and over, well, maybe you should see a therapist. Maybe you should see a therapist. And so finally, we have a lot of good LGBTQ therapists in town. And so I found one, and I've seen a couple in town now, and they've both been great people and have really helped me understand who I am, and then also build boundaries as I come out and, meet the world.
Right. Very good. Good. That's something we try to talk about a lot, is therapy and how that's played for both of us.
I'm curious, when did you mention to Katie about yourself? Did you start from when you're, like you say, you discovering when you have puberty?
No.
No,
definitely not. So I think it was probably, when I actually literally came out and said I'm transgender, it wasn't until 2018. Okay. So not that long ago. We had some discussions a couple of years prior to that, as I had started to explore some more of myself. And the day that I went to therapy, I went to therapy and realized that I was trans, and I was driving home thinking, okay, how am I gonna talk to Katie about this? Because this is a hard conversation. So I, in my mind was like, what if I just kind of test the waters and, hedge a little bit to see if she's okay with it before I kind of, blurt out that I'm transgender. But in that kind of thought experiment, I realized it wasn't fair to either one of us if I didn't say who I was and we ended up staying, or if, because of me or because of her. So I just came home and I said, I'm transgender. And when we had the opportunity to sit down and talk, and she turned to me and said, I know.
Oh, wow. How do you know? I am curious.
How do you know? That's a good question.
Well, Nia always talks about this moment as the moment that she came out to me, but that to me is not the moment that she came out.
Interesting.
Like she said, we had a few years of conversation, few years of conversation around gender, centered a lot on clothing and just like feeling. Mm-hmm. So to me, the first time that she said anything like that to me, well, you did say something really early in our marriage, but it was like, that was in the past. Yeah. And so when it cropped up again later in our married life, I knew then. And weirdly, I had been really drawn to trans stories. It was like a big part of my own journey because we have boys. And I think that there was a lot of talk around like, will you let your boys wear nail polish? Will you let them grow their hair long? Can they wear dresses? And so as a mom, I was already thinking about that. Mm-hmm. And then I started getting interested in trans stories. So when she doesn't think she came out to me, but when she kind of opened the box, I was like, this is a road we're starting down, whether it was a road towards, non-binary or it was a road towards trans. I knew then. Yeah. So when she came home and said, I know, and she said, I'm trans, and I said, I know, I really did. I was like, okay, I'm glad that you caught up.
Wow. I love that. So how was that for you, that process? Because it would seem like through your youth and your guys' time together, even in college before you got married, there was nothing there, right? And so that had to be a journey for you to kind of wrap your mind around this.
Well, I think for me, Nia had always loved me so well. I live with a lot of depression and anxiety, and Nia has seen me in some of my deepest, darkest holes and just met me there. So as much as I said, I see you when she came out to me, she had said the same thing to me, our whole marriage. But I really had felt almost our entire marriage that there was one roadblock that I just could never love her quite the same as she could love me. I always knew that there was some sort of imbalance. Like there was just something I wasn't seeing, because I always thought, oh my God, you're so much better than me because you can love me like this. And I don't think I'm giving you that same kind of love. And so when she came out, of course, it was like, what is going to happen? And there was a lot of like internally, externally, I'm like, okay.
Right.
Internally, I'm like, oh my God.
Yes, certainly.
But, you deal with that feeling, because coupled with that like chaotic, what am I going to do feeling, was also this feeling of that's the thing. That's the thing that has been in the way. That's the reason why I haven't been able to reach her as much as I want to. That's it. That's the blockage. And so it was like a key that unlocked a deeper relationship for me with her. And while I do think you're really amazing and great, I don't think you're better than me anymore.
Oh, bummer.
I love it. We go for equality in this relationship.
Equality.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful, because I know there's many of us that have stories like mine where we had a great marriage and but our spouse was just not able to be on this journey with us. And which is confusing, because if you're a good friend and someone that unconditionally loves someone and someone that is committed, and then, to death do us part, and then this comes up, certainly this rocks everybody's world that we're associated with. But I love the fact that you're able to see that as kind of what was missing. And there was something there that I couldn't put my finger on, but now this is it. And then you allow that in your openness and in your love for Nia, you allow that to blossom into the relationship you have now. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think resistance was futile.
Yeah, right.
Couldn't really have a choice. But I do want to say too, I think that what helped me also is that I did not have a good idea of my own sexuality. Nia is the only person I've ever kissed. She's the only person I've ever been with. And so I got to really discover my own sexuality, which at the front was terrifying. And now is so liberating. Wow. I like to say that Nia gifted me my queerness because I didn't know that I was queer. I hadn't had the experience.
Right.
But this is one stroke of luck, I would say, inside our relationship, is that I am queer. And so I think that really helped the process a lot, is I didn't look into my own sexuality and say, oh, I am strictly straight. I looked into my own sexuality and said, oh, there's a lot more here.
Right, exactly, which is amazing. And that open-mindedness is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So I want to ask, because after Nia transition, when you guys go out, is there any fun stories or any difference from prior? Like, let's say you go on a date or take kids out. Is there some?
Oh Lord.
Yeah. So when we first started going out, we live in a community it's a city. It's 500,000 people, but it's small feel to it. And so when I first started to transition, before I was she knew, but not everybody knew. I mean, I think it was kind of scary to go out together. I won't speak for you, but I know for me, even running into somebody not being out was terrifying.
You mean like
just
when you were fully dressed as yourself?
Yeah, just out. I'm out, but not out to other people. So that there was like that stage in between. And I think for me now, going out on dates, we went out last night and it's just so freeing. I don't know. I only know what I knew before, which was not freedom. But going out now is just so much more fun.
Wow. Nice.
I feel like I'm much more loose when we go out on dates. And
I mean, we've always had good dates, so that's
true.
But there was a time in transition where Nia's transition was a public transition. She didn't go through like a lot of, I mean, there was privacy and more androgyny in the private moments, but then Nia did go through a transition period where, you know, it was clear she was transitioning, you know. Right. So there was, for me, a lot of fear in those like year maybe that it was clear you were transitioning, because anywhere you go, you're told to be afraid, really. And for good reason. You know, trans people are targeted and they're harmed. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do? Like, am I just going to bystand this? What am I going to do? And then it turns out in our community, everywhere we go, I mean, we get the occasional looks, which is kind of like, yeah, take us in. But overwhelmingly, we have such positive response from people. Like last night, we were out at a bar and the kid was so great. The waiter brought us an extra drink. We met, like, exchanged names and talked a little bit, which before that would not have been something that we would have done on a date, engaged with people outside of the two of us.
Yeah. And I will say too, Shelby, to answer your question, you know, weirdly, we did have a lot of fun and not weirdly, there's not a lot of, weirdly, there was not a lot of change, you know, to your question, because we still have a lot of fun. And, you know, the kids, I feel like my relationship with the kids didn't really change. So we get to go out and have fun and be a family. And it kind of is as it was before. There was that period where it wasn't and it was hard, but and now it kind of is as it was before, which is awesome.
That's amazing.
Congrats.
Yes. And I love that, even because we, especially here in California, we think we are blessed for sure by the acceptance that we have in general day-to-day life. But other places don't have that. But go Iowa, it sounds like, I've heard you mention before that there is a great community in Des Moines and you live just outside of that. And so that's really great to hear.
Yeah, it's, you know, we also, there's a thing called Iowa Nice. So no one's going to be like real mean to you, but maybe talk behind your back. But yeah, it's, you know, especially in the city, it's really nice to be in a community that is accepting.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Tell us a little bit about, Nia, I know that you have a job that you are very open with, and kind of the nature of your position, you had to be in certain ways. So tell us a little about what you do and how transition was for that, in that role.
Yeah, so I'm a director of human resources for an education agency here in Iowa. And it's a 750 person organization. So I mean, I really had high visibility in my role before I came out. Right. So the coming out process meant that I had to communicate with almost everybody. I mean, I really did have to communicate with everybody in the organization, because you don't want an employee coming to you for something and being like, what? I don't understand. So yeah, my organization was amazing. And I know a lot of people don't have this experience, but I think because I was in HR, I was able to say, like, this would be my role to walk, you know, if somebody came to me to help walk the organization through that. So I was able to say to our executive team, like, this is what I need. And they said, that's great. You lead the way, which I think is key in organizational acceptance, you know, work or church. Letting the person who's transitioning lead the way is key. And my organization did that. And so I was able to write letters and write a memo and, have the our our agency head kind of sign off on it, like, with his name, and say, like, this is what's happening. I support this person, and everybody else better support this person too. And so it really was just a really positive experience.
That's great. I think that's a great point to underscore, is that the person that is coming out owns their story. And even if it's an organization or a religious group or a nonprofit, anything, that if they're allowed to communicate to their story on their own, of course, there's going to be structural policy and things to fit in that. But if they can own their story, it makes it so much more valuable for them, and much a rewarding and full experience. And so that's a good point to be sure that people hear.
Yeah. So talk about story. I also heard from Michelle that you wrote a book about yourself.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so the book is called The Story of Nib, and really this was born out of my own processing. And so I do a form of therapy called EMDR therapy, which is eye movement desensitization and
rapid desensitization.
I don't know.
EMDR.
We're not the
desensitization and reprocessing.
Oh, desensitization.
Yeah, so desensitization and reprocessing. So essentially what it is you're looking at your own memories, and you are reprocessing some of those in a more positive way to kind of close the loop on some potentially trauma that you have in the past. And through that process, I was doing some of that, and I was processing some of my memories from, before puberty and up to puberty, and then kind of what would life have been like if I would have, been born who I am, and kind of just doing some processing. And I got to, where I met Katie and some of those memories, because we met when we were 12 really and became friends early. And I kind of kept going through that junior high processing. And then all of a sudden there was nothing, like no memories for me to look at. And so I started to look at why was that happening? And just in my mind, I'm looking around, and I found this character in this wooden box that is a part of my story, obviously. And that's where the story of Nib was born. And so I had a daily processing session of who is this character? What do they want? Why are they here? And that really is what the story of Nib is about. It's about finding a piece of me and integrating that into the rest of my personhood.
Yes, I love that. And it is a deep, beautiful, meaningful, insightful journey. And so where could someone find that book?
Yeah, you can Google it and get it from any bookseller, probably in local booksellers, obviously, if they have it. If they don't, try to request it through them, because I love supporting local booksellers. So just Google Story of Nib. And a shout out to the illustrator.
Beautiful.
I mean, this was not really meant for public consumption, but I had this illustrator, this trans woman in South America, do an illustration for one of these scenes for me, and I loved it so much. And I just kept having her do more and more until I was like, you know what, we just do all of them, and we're just gonna put this together. So Great. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Great. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it as part of someone's own process of coming out, but also sharing with a child or someone else that you're relating to that is going through some type of self-search, internal dialogue of what authenticity means for me. And so it's a powerful tool. So thank you for writing it. Thank you for telling us about it.
Yeah.
Now tell us a little bit about, you have so many things that you guys are involved in, so I wish we had all day to talk, but Love in the Face is an organization that you guys created kind of out of what was already happening, and you kind of formalized it. And so tell us a little bit about Love in the Face.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you how it started initially, as a public person in human resources in my company. Once I came out, I had employees who said, oh, my neighbor's kid is trans. Do you have resources? And my daughter has a trans kid. My granddaughter, I think at first started as a grandkid was trans. And so I started talking to these families and kind of just one-on-one, chatting. And then we thought, why don't we just formalize this where we can let people know that we're here for support? So it morphed into a lot of different things, which you can talk more about what it is now. But started with just mentoring, support, one-on-one. doing name change ceremonies and marking the time for people as they go through a transition, and a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, yes. I think what we really seek to do is support trans individuals and their loved ones and their communities. Mm-hmm. So we're very open people. So we're like, do you need a thing? We'll do that thing. We can help you with that thing. So, we kind of just go, well, we can mentor. We're very good speakers. So we're like, we could speak to that. We've done some workshops for Transmission Ministry Collective. Yes. And then we also offer support for spouses or parents, which is hard. I mean, that's difficult, and it's a difficult step for a lot of spouses and parents to take. And it's taken a long time to gain enough trust and traction in the community for spouses to want to reach out, but we're getting there too. So, but what we want is a place where people know that they're loved no matter what. You can feel what you feel. You can be who you are. You don't have to be like over the moon that your spouse or your child or your loved one is trans. You can be figuring it out. Sure. We can help with that. We know what that feels like. And you can be going through it from, the trans individual side and needing support. And what we found when we were in the middle of this is, where do we go? Right. Where do I go in particular? I didn't know where I was supposed to go. Right. Because it feels like a secret world when you're in it. And really it is.
Yeah, especially as a spouse, I'd imagine.
Yes. And we're trying, part of what Love in the Face wants to do is make it not so secret. Yes. Because having a trans spouse, being a queer family, is something we should absolutely celebrate. But we need a bridge from shame to celebration.
Yes, I love that.
And so that's what we want to do. We want to provide that bridge.
I love that. Now, how can people find you and see what all the services you have and what could be beneficial for them?
Yeah, they can go to loveintheface.com. We're also on Instagram at loveintheface. But yeah, loveintheface.com, you can look at, so mentoring support services really is kind of conversational. We try to do that for free as much as we can, because that's what we know we needed when we were there. So we don't charge for that. But we do speaking at corporations and at churches. Katie has a background in the church. She can talk more about that. But so we have kind of the HR side, the religious organization side. So happy to do those kind of things. And like Katie said, we've done some workshops with Transmission Ministry Collective talking about grief inside transition and just even partnership inside transition. So we can kind of come in and help in whatever way that an organization or a family or an individual would like us to.
Amazing. Great resources.
Yeah. Katie, I want to ask you, because like what Michelle mentioned, there's a lot of spouse. I have like few close friends. They at first their spouse was kind of supported, and somehow I don't know. I didn't ask, but somehow down the line they kind of just doesn't accept this and end up divorcing. So I want to ask you if you can give advice to a trans spouse. What can you give like advice to them if they if their spouse decide to transition?
Yeah. Well, the thing that helped me the most that I ran across and just discovered while I don't even know what I was doing early in Nia's transition was something called the ring theory. And it's how it was developed for people going through grief. And what it is it kind of shows you how to develop boundaries around what's happening to you. So you put the person who's experiencing what they're going through in the middle. And then from there, you have concentric circles that kind of surround that person. That's what ring theory does. And then what ring theory says is that because it's grief, all the grief can go out. Mm-hmm. So you can be like as grief as you want. The person who's in the middle gets to grieve to the person to the outside. That person gets to grieve to the other person on the outside of that. But then stress cannot come in. So what happens is you end up creating these barriers around a person that stress should get absorbed before it hits that person in the middle. So when Nia was going through her transition, I thought, okay, Nia is in the middle of this. This is happening to her, and I'm her surrounding circle. So my job is to make sure that Nia stays safe and is able to transition in a safe environment. And then my next job is to boundary myself so I'm not taking on everybody else's stress. The most difficult part was figuring out who was in my outer circles, who was safe, who could I talk to, who was going to give me good advice and not shake their finger at me. And here's the thing, the pressure when your spouse is transitioning is immense. It's huge. And I'm sure, as a transitioning person, that pressure. And for a spouse, especially a spouse who's wanting to kind of hold that pressure back and not let their spouse feel the whole weight of it, you can end up getting crushed by that. And I think you just get tired. And when you're tired, you do give up. And sometimes that's all you can do. So I think my best advice and what I experienced was that in order to protect the relationship between me and Nia, I had to surround myself with people who could shoulder my grief and give me encouragement and love. That's what I needed.
Can you talk about the constant too? Because I think the Rob Bell thing, that to me, you came across this thing and set you up for being able to do all of that other stuff.
So I was a pastor, was a lay minister. And so I would listen to podcasts all the time. And I was listening to a Rob Bell podcast, who is like, I love Rob Bell. If you're not familiar with him, he is a great gateway. If you have been a Christian and have deconstructed and need, a little tie back in, he's fantastic. But he was just spitballing some ideas for a book. And he was throwing out this idea that our deepest desires lead us to who we truly are. And so we can be afraid of our desires, or we can listen to them and let them take us to the root of who we are. And so I'm driving in my car. I probably had a sleeping kid in the back. And I was thinking, what do I really want from my life? And I was like, I know it was not even a question. I want Nia. I want this family, and I want this life that we're building. And so hands down, I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep this. Wow. And that became my constant. It was so clear to me. Nope, this love is worth fighting for. This life is worth fighting for. And by God, I'm going to die trying to hold on to this. So finding that constant and knowing why I was doing this, why I was standing up to this, made all the difference.
Yeah, I just from my observation, that was super key, because Katie got more dumped on than I did, because she was protecting me in those moments from outside sources. And so she absorbed a lot of garbage. And I think that it seems like, looking back, that was a big key.
And that came largely from the church. Am I right?
Yeah, it did. Yep. A lot of places, but yes.
Yeah. I would say our community, we had a really beautiful community of people. Our systematic religion did not like what was happening. Yeah. And so, I kind of like to say that our love outgrew the system that we were in, which is tragic, because we grew up Christian. We follow the way of Jesus. That was what Jesus preached. And to me, it was like asinine that this was shutting us down, when that's all that Jesus said is like love.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you guys are such powerful examples. And let me just put this out. I know that your story is not everybody's story. And it's okay if you have a spouse, much maybe like more my story, that cannot participate in this journey with you. And that's okay. And that's valid. That's where you are. But the reason I love Nia and Katie's story is because it is a story of using the difficulty and the turmoil and even trauma that a transition like this could cause, but showing how redemptive that can be and how beautiful it can be and how healing that can be, not only for you two as a couple, but for us as a community and for people that can use you and your experiences. And so thank you it would be so easy, especially with some of the things that you've faced there, just to kind of be internal and self-focused and just caring for your family, but you guys hadn't done that. You guys have continued to live openly and out front and creating organizations and support for people that have gone through that. And that's amazing. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. We believe in optimism and in hope. And as many tragic stories as there are, we've discovered there are so many beautiful stories. So the more we can tell our story, the more people can see this is possible.
Yes, exactly.
There's reality. Right. I think that creates hope and joy inside of our community. Definitely. At least I think that's true.
Definitely. Absolutely. 100%. And so...
So Lena, do you have any last words for our listener and audience?
I guess the one thing I would say is have your support around you. So if you are unsure that your spouse, will be supportive of your family, there are other people out there. Yes. I found a good trans support group even here in Des Moines, Iowa, when I was coming out, and having really good friends that you can talk to about this stuff and kind of those, circles of, safety as you go out too. Is super key as you come out, especially to a spouse, if you're unsure of how they're going to react. Find somebody you can talk to, if not a therapist, hopefully, also a friend, and reach out to us. This is for like, I do this. What? I don't even know where to start. Well, we go, tell me about yourself and let's talk about what you can do.
Exactly.
We are not therapists. So, that's the other thing is you need to have a therapist.
Right. Yes, we definitely underscore that as well. And the community, and we've talked about community and community building here a lot. Yes. And our community has issues, and there is things that we need to continue to work through. But one thing that has even, I would say, helped save my life, and Nia is part of that, is there are people that are there that you can talk to, and you can reach out to them. And maybe not everybody would respond, or maybe, they get bombarded with different responses. But, feel free to contact Shelby or I or Nia or Katie. That's why we're here, because you need a place to start. You need some place that's safe, that you can be able to verbalize and walk through your journey and unpack things. And so, but definitely that does not replace a therapist for sure. And we don't want to say that, but the community is there and the community is out there for you. So,
Okay. So I guess that's it, right?
Yes. Thank you guys so much for your time. I know it's a Saturday with your family. You could be doing a million things, but thank you. And we'll put up all the links so people can see them on YouTube and in those show notes. So thank you guys so much for your availability. Thank you for coming, and hope to see you in person again soon, Nia, and meet you, Katie, in person. Thank you guys so much.
Yes. Thank you for having us.